The clang of swords had faded, replaced by the rhythmic cadence of ink brushes, the soft rustle of silk kimonos, and the measured footfalls along the polished floors of castle halls. Japan was finally at peace. Under the Tokugawa shogunate, 1603–1868, a new order emerged, one that would endure for over 2 centuries. The samurai, once defined by battle, now faced a challenge of a different kind: how to live with honor in a world without war. When Tokugawa Ieyasu claimed the shogunate, he instituted strict social hierarchy and control over the samurai. Daimyo were required to maintain residences both in their home provinces and in Edo, modern Tokyo, a system known as Sankin Kotai, keeping them under the watchful eye of the shogun. Samurai families were firmly positioned above peasants and merchants, yet their function changed. The sword, once a tool of survival and glory, became a symbol of status. Samurai carried 2 swords, the daisho, a long katana, and a shorter wakizashi, marking their rank and identity. These blades, polished to perfection, were more than weapons. They were badges of office, a reminder of lineage and responsibility. To be a samurai was to bear not only the sword, but the weight of history. With peace secured, samurai found themselves in roles far removed from the battlefield. Many became administrators, tax collectors, and bureaucrats, enforcing the shogunate's laws and overseeing the rural domains. The art of governance replaced the art of war. Discipline, loyalty, and honor were applied to paperwork, inspections, and management of rice production, a far cry from the roar of battle. Education became a pillar of samurai culture. Young warriors were taught not only martial skills, but also literature, Confucian ethics, and calligraphy. Samurai children studied history, philosophy, and poetry, preparing them to be both moral guides and effective administrators. The ideal samurai of the Edo period could quote classics while performing ceremonial duties, reflecting a profound shift from warrior to scholar. The Edo period was also a time of cultural explosion. Samurai patronized the arts, encouraging no theater, tea ceremonies, ink painting, and flower arranging. Many samurai themselves became practitioners of these refined arts, blending the warrior's discipline with artistic sensibility. The tea ceremony in particular became a metaphor for the samurai ideal. Precision, patience, and grace were virtues both on the battlefield and in the tea room. Zen philosophy permeated their daily lives, emphasizing self-discipline, mindfulness, and moral conduct. Even in peace, the samurai sought to cultivate mastery over body, mind, and spirit. Yet peace brought challenges. Samurai were warriors by tradition and training, yet they were now constrained by law and social expectation. Without war, many found themselves frustrated, idle, or financially strained. While they were at the top of the social hierarchy, the wealth of the merchant class often surpassed their own. Samurai stipends were fixed, and extravagant tastes in art, clothing, or entertainment frequently led to debt. Some samurai became ronin, masterless warriors, when their lords fell into disfavor or lost lands. These men wandered Japan, seeking opportunity or vengeance, and sometimes resorted to banditry. Ronin were both a romanticized symbol of independence and a reminder of the rigid social order that left many talented warriors without a place. Among the many samurai who thrived in this era, a few names shine for their contributions to culture rather than war. Yagyu Munenori, for example, served the Tokugawa shogunate as a sword instructor and strategist. He also wrote extensively on swordsmanship, blending martial skill with philosophy. His teachings emphasized the unity of mind, body, and spirit, reflecting the changing ideals of the Edo samurai. Miyamoto Musashi, though born in the late Sengoku era, lived through early Edo peace. His legendary duels were behind him, yet he left a lasting legacy through the Book of Five Rings, a philosophical treatise on strategy, discipline, and life itself. Musashi embodied the transition, a warrior whose mind became as sharp as his blade. The Edo samurai were expected to be paragons of virtue. Their conduct was closely observed, their families judged by reputation, marriage alliances reinforced social order, and etiquette governed every interaction. Samurai had to balance the traditions of loyalty and honor with the practical realities of administration and finance. Even within this strict framework, creativity flourished. Samurai families maintained gardens, cultivated poetry, and sponsored artisans. Castles became centers not only of military authority, but of culture and refinement. The image of the samurai expanded, from battlefield hero to cultivated noble, merging strength and intellect. However, the very stability that elevated the samurai also planted the seeds of their decline. Over generations, martial skills atrophied, and the need for swords diminished. Samurai identity became increasingly ceremonial. By the late Edo period, the world outside Japan had begun to change. Foreign ships arrived on Japanese shores, bearing firearms, industrial technology, and new ideas. The stage was being set for a dramatic confrontation between tradition and modernity. The samurai, once rulers of life and death, would soon face a world where their swords and codes of honor might no longer hold sway. The Edo period was paradoxical, an era of peace forged from centuries of war. Samurai transformed from warriors into bureaucrats, educators, and cultural custodians. They preserved ideals of loyalty, discipline, and honor, even as the sword became a symbol rather than a weapon. Yet the world was changing. For a class defined by battle, peace was both a blessing and a burden. And as the 19th century approached, the samurai would confront challenges that no amount of culture, philosophy, or ritual could prepare them for. The end of their age and the dawn of modern Japan. The sound of cannons replaced the clang of swords. Smoke from firearms and muskets filled the air, blotting out the morning sun. For centuries, the samurai had shaped Japan with their courage, loyalty, and blood. Now, their world was ending. The Meiji Restoration, 1868, had dawned, and with it, a new Japan, a modern, industrial nation determined to leave the old order behind. By the mid-19th century, the Tokugawa shogunate, which had maintained peace for over 250 years, faced immense pressure. Foreign powers, Britain, the United States, Russia, demanded trade, opening Japan's ports and exposing the country to the industrialized world. The shogunate's authority weakened as dissatisfaction spread among domains and samurai alike. Many samurai felt betrayed. They had devoted centuries to upholding a rigid social order, only to see the world change around them. Some argued for the restoration of imperial power as a way to preserve Japan's sovereignty. Others clung to loyalty to their daimyo or to the old Tokugawa regime. The stage was set for upheaval. In 1868, civil war erupted in the Bushido War, pitting shogunate loyalists against forces supporting Emperor Meiji. Samurai fought in battles reminiscent of centuries past, but this time the rules of engagement had changed. Rifles, cannons, and modern artillery overshadowed swords and bows. Cavalry charges and duels were no longer decisive. The samurai of Aizu, Satsuma, and other loyalist domains fought with valor, their code of honor guiding them even in the face of near-certain defeat. In Aizu, defenders held out for months against imperial forces, performing ritual suicide, seppuku, rather than surrendering. Their courage was legendary, yet their world was collapsing with every cannon shot. By 1869, the shogunate had fallen and Japan was unified under Emperor Meiji. The age of the samurai, as a ruling warrior class, was over. The new government implemented sweeping reforms. Samurai stipends were gradually eliminated, and the wearing of swords in public was banned. Traditional ranks and privileges were stripped away in favor of a merit-based civil service and a conscripted national army. For samurai, this was more than a loss of status. It was a crisis of identity. Their lives had been defined by service, loyalty, and martial skill. Now they were expected to adapt to commerce, administration, or farming. Many struggled with poverty, resentment, and despair. Not all accepted the changes peacefully. In 1877, Saigo Takamori, a former samurai and hero of the Meiji Restoration, led the Satsuma Rebellion, the last great samurai uprising. Thousands of warriors took up arms, determined to defend their honor and the traditions of centuries. The rebellion raged through southern Japan. Samurai charged government forces with swords drawn, but the new imperial army, equipped with rifles and artillery, decimated their ranks. One by one, castles fell, villages burned, and warriors died on the fields where their ancestors had fought. Saigo himself, wounded and surrounded, committed ritual suicide rather than be captured. The Satsuma Rebellion ended in defeat, marking the definitive end of samurai as a military class. Yet the story did not end with defeat. Former samurai became leaders in modern Japan, applying their discipline, loyalty, and strategic skills to new fields. Many entered the army, police, or government bureaucracy. Others became scholars, educators, and industrialists. The code of Bushido survived in spirit. Honor, courage, and loyalty became guiding principles for Japanese society, influencing military traditions, business ethics, and personal conduct. Even as swords vanished from streets, the ideals of the samurai endured in heart and mind. The samurai of old became legends, immortalized in literature, theater, and art. Stories of Miyamoto Musashi's duels, Saigo Takamori's last stand, and the loyal retainers of Ieyasu inspired generations. Writers, painters, and filmmakers would dramatize the samurai's bravery and honor, creating an image that sometimes exceeded reality, but captured the essence of their ethos. Samurai were more than warriors. They were the architects of Japanese culture, the keepers of ethics, and the embodiment of discipline. Even as the world changed, their influence shaped the modern Japanese identity. The fall of the samurai was not a failure, but a transformation. The swords they once wielded were replaced by pens, rifles, and governance, yet the principles they lived by continued to guide Japan. Peace had come, but it was forged by the courage and sacrifice of a class whose name still evokes power, mystery, and honor. The samurai had fallen from power, but they had never truly disappeared. Their legacy endured. In every act of discipline, loyalty, and skill, their spirit lived on. And for centuries to come, the world would remember the warriors who had defined Japan, the samurai. Don't miss out. Subscribe for more awesome content.